From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson. We're currently waiting for Hector to call into the line right now, but unfortunately, we're having some technical difficulties with the phone. Kenny Graham, who's on the other side of the glass, is trying to fix it right now, so we're going to see if we can have Hector call in any minute now. By the way, I want to let you guys know that if you have a story that you want told on In the Bleachers, a sports story that is, then we would like to know about it. So all you do is contact me through Facebook and Twitter, and we'll be able to accommodate you and tell everyone about the story that you want to tell. By the way, speaking of stories, who would have thought that the Mets would be the top story in the New York sports scene right now? And boy, did they make a splash when they did, signing one of the best pitchers in the market, Max Scherzer, for 3 years and $130 million. That's $43+ million a season. That's making him not just the highest paid pitcher, but the highest paid player in Major League Baseball. Finally, the Mets owner decided to make a coup of his own. And you know what? Good for him, because when he first bought the team last year, the Mets were not necessarily terrible, but they were a major disappointment last season. But now, not only did they get Max Scherzer, but they also got a couple of other players. I'm going to see if I can give you a list. Here we are. Max Scherzer got himself a 3-year deal worth $130 million. And also, they wound up getting the center fielder that they wanted, getting Starling Marte. Plus, they got another outfielder, Mark Canha, and they also got infielder Eduardo Escobar. So just think about it. Not only did they get themselves the best pitcher on the market, they got one of the best center fielders, one of the best outfielders, and one of the best infielders in the game. And just to give you an idea, the Mets have now spent $124.5 million in salary on these 4 players. Doesn't necessarily mean that the show is over, because the Mets are still looking for pitching. But you put Jacob deGrom in there and Max Scherzer, that would be one dangerous 1-2 combo. Let's see if the Mets can do something for an encore. Let's see if they can add a third or a fourth pitcher to their arsenal. And to think, the Yankees, while the Mets have spent over $124 million, the Yankees are standing by idly and not making a peep of anything that they're doing. And let me correct myself on the amount of money that the Mets spent. The Mets have actually spent $254 million in salary so far, which is second in the majors behind the Texas Rangers, who made a splash of their own by getting Corey Seager from the Dodgers. The Rangers have spent, let me see if I can get this thing up here, $561.2 million. This just goes to show you that the Rangers and the Mets are very serious about making a playoff push. Gotta hand it to them. They're at least they're trying. In fact, they just put out a list of all the teams that have spent all their money. The Rangers are first, of course. Then comes the Mets. After that, there's the Toronto Blue Jays, who've spent $121 million. Then you've got the Mariners at $115 million. In fact, those are the only teams that have been able to crack nine figures in salary right now. After that, you got the Tigers spending $77 million. The Astros spent $67 million. Even the Florida Marlins, with all the people that they have gotten, have spent a little something on their payroll, $53 million. Then there's the Angels at $45 million. Then there's the Cardinals at $44 million. And then the Giants wrap up the top 10 with $36 million spent so far. You've got to hand it to the Mets, though. A team that was afraid to make a splash because they were worried about how much money they were going to be spending, finally made that splash that Met fans were looking for. Speaking of splashes, both the Giants and the Jets made some splashes of their own because they won yesterday. When both teams win, everything is right with the world. First off, the Giants got probably their biggest win of the year when they wound up beating their hated division rivals, the Eagles. And this game was all about defense. If you're a fan of defense like I am, the Giants and the Eagles, to a lesser extent, both played terrific defense yesterday. But it was the Giants that wound up making the Eagles quarterback look a little silly yesterday. As far as the Jets are concerned, the Jets made a splash of their own against a team that, quite frankly, they should have beaten, and that was the Houston Texans. So, leave it to the Jets to come up with a big win such as this. If anything, the Jets, with their 3-8 record, they'll take as many victories as they can get, to be quite honest with you. And just to give you an idea of what the Jets and Giants schedules hold for the rest of the season, the Giants have 6 games left. Let's see here. The Giants actually have the Dolphins next weekend. And then after that, they have the Los Angeles Chargers. Then it's division opponents for 3 of the last 4 weeks of the season. They're hosting the Cowboys. They play the Eagles again in Philly. Then after meeting the Bears on January 2nd, they finish the season with Washington. And let me tell you, the Giants are going to be looking for a lot of revenge against the Washington football team, especially after having a victory stolen from them because of an offsides call while lining up for the game-winning field goal. Now, speaking of the Giants, there's been a lot of talk, not necessarily by the media, but talk among fans that Joe Judge has got to go.
No, they're saying Dave Gettleman should go, Joe Judge should go, and the quarterback should go.
Is that you, Hector, interrupting my spiel?
No, it is the hardest, baddest,
you.
sickest man on cable access TV telling you that reports. First of all, thank you for saying that. I hope you announce me as the hardest, baddest, sickest man on cable access TV.
I will do no such thing.
Because you should,
no,
as
I
usual.
Should not.
Because if you don't, you're crazy.
No, I'm not crazy.
You're
I'm just
crazy.
as sane as you are.
It's in my contract. You should do it. I keep on telling you this.
Forget you and your stinking contract, man.
Reason.
You're just making this up. Just to butter up your
you have
own
a nice
ego.
Thanksgiving? Because I had a lot of women over.
See, you're
I
doing it
went to a
again.
lot of women's
You're
houses,
doing it
and I had a lot
again,
of breasts
Hector. You're
that
doing
night.
it again.
So it was great. And
Why are you lying?
And then third, the Dallas Cowboys lost.
By the way, that Cowboy game against the Raiders, highest rated football game, not just on Thanksgiving, but overall this season. They drew 38 million viewers.
That's because it's the boys, and they're on top.
No, it's not because they're bored. It's because it has two marquee franchises, the Raiders and the Cowboys.
That's because they're the boys. They're America's team. Well, underneath the Jets.
I'll bet you that there's not one single football fan of another team who could even name one of the guys on the Jets right now.
I can name the quarterback.
Well, anybody could name the quarterback, but what about afterwards?
I can name the second quarterback.
What about after that?
I can name the third string quarterback.
How about you name a position player that doesn't play quarterback?
You just told me to name people. You didn't tell me to name anything else but. I named players. So there. Now, as for the Jets, you said it best. Everything is right with the world when New York teams win.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
But what's going to happen next year? That's the question. Because let's say, Jets get another number one, or the way their record's going right now, they should get at least the top 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least a top 5 pick. Who are they getting? And what's going to happen with their GM? And also, again, hopefully some of their players will be a lot stronger, because a lot of the players that they signed last year were out this year, and they lost one player again for 3 weeks. 1 to 3 weeks.
I'll bet it's Michael Carter.
I forgot the lineman's name. I think he was a lineman.
Oh, an offensive lineman?
And I'll tell you something else too. As for the Giants, all of a sudden now they're calling for Gettleman's head on a platter. He may retire, or they may get rid of him.
It's best in the Giants' interest. It's in the best interest of the Giants to probably let go of Dave Gettleman this time, because
now
he has been erratic with his free agent signings and draft picks.
You're right. He has been erratic, and he's been at it for 4 years, and nothing's been going on for 4 years, right? Because that's the norm now. Every 4 years, between 3 or 4 years, if you don't see an upside between 3 or 4 years, that's it.
Yeah.
You got to get rid of him. That's the norm now. But, you also said it best when we were talking about it, which is they still have a chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah. Even at 4-7.
Now, let's say they do make the playoffs.
What happens if they do make the playoffs?
Yeah. Does that save his job?
It'll definitely save his job. That's for sure.
If it saves his job, then the organization doesn't know what it's doing.
So you think,
because
regardless,
even if
that
they
he should
make
go?
the playoffs, because you have three things to worry about this year.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happens, you have Gettleman, Daniel Jones, and Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley's contract ends the year after, because he's still in its rookie year, but he's got 1 more year left. And, you always try to re-sign him before the year's up.
Right.
But he's been hurt.
Yeah.
When he's on the field, he's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But when he's been more hurt than been on the field. Am I right or am I wrong on that?
This is true.
Okay.
Although he might be the toughest decision to make because in spite of his injuries, he's got fantastic skill.
So do you wait until next year, see what happens, and then try to sign him, or do you try to sign him now?
I would wait to give him a
Because
deal.
if you wait, then you may have to pay him more money.
This is true.
And you don't know what their salary cap's going to be for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Daniel Jones, our beloved Daniel Jones. What do you do with him? Because he's in the same situation as Saquon Barkley. Do you get rid of him or do you keep him?
I'm not sure if there's going to be any market for Daniel Jones, to be honest with you. I would give him one more chance next year.
Nah, you're too forgiving then. If you're going to get rid of Gettleman, then you got to let the GM decide. You know, I've said this before on the show, and that is when you get a new GM, normally the new GM wants his own coach, wants his own players.
Mm-hmm.
They normally try to clean house. And that's a fact. Now, if a new GM comes in, which it'll probably be within the organization because they hardly ever go out, and if they do, they get someone embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, first of all, who are they getting? And second of all, are there a crop of quarterbacks this year that are coming out of college that's going to be worth to pick a quarterback because they have two drafts this year, one from Chicago and one of their own.
Mm-hmm.
So what do?
Well, I can tell you right now, the quarterback market looks very, very soft. So if I'm the Jets or the Giants, I would probably spend a draft pick someplace else because there's no superstar quarterback that's going to be coming out of college right now.
You're right. There's no superstar quarterback that's coming out of college. However, you still have. Then what do? Then you keep Daniel Jones for one more year and hope that he does something better than what he's doing this year, even though they may make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Even if he makes the playoffs, so what?
So what? Then they hopefully could start a little bit of a run.
Well, in that situation, I have to say, okay, if he makes the first round of the playoff and wins, then you can say, all right, he saves his job.
Mm-hmm.
But if he makes the first round of the playoffs because by luck they make it in, then, and if they lose, and since there's no good quarterback coming up, and the Giants aren't built to really win, what veteran quarterback or what new quarterback's going to want to play on that team if you're not built for nothing? Think about it.
Yeah.
You fire Gettleman, which I hope it does. Let's say you get rid of Daniel Jones because he hasn't done anything. Because remember what we said before about the statistics you wanted him to have. He hasn't even lived. He hasn't even lived up to your stats to try to keep him. So by what we talked to, and by the stats that you set the bar to, he's not worth keeping. But you may have to keep him because who's going to want to play for that team?
Yeah.
You know? And let's say they keep Gettleman. It's even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Because who are they going to draft? This man, every time he drafts someone, the only person that he drafted well is Saquon Barkley, and even that's been a flop.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's a great player when he steps on the floor, but when you're hurt, and you can't do anything about it because it is his ankle. And sometimes when you get hurt in a certain placement in your body, it's either not the same or you're scared of getting hurt. I mean, that's also the truth, too. As an athlete, you get scared. As a normal person, you're walking around, you may not be that get scared. But if you're playing sports, you're not gonna go all out like you used to.
Yeah.
And he's still young enough to recuperate, but it's his ankle.
Mm-hmm.
So the Giants, and then let's say they do get rid of Gettleman. Do they start from scratch? Or do they try to work within the system and go, okay, well, this guy, I mean, is the majority of that team good? Half that team good, or a quarter of the team good?
Well, defensively, they've been much better the last 3 weeks. Correction, the last, I would say, 8 weeks, or 8 games, I should say.
Right. But I'm saying, would you consider a quarter of a team good, half the team good, or the majority of teams good?
A quarter.
A quarter of a team's good. So that means that well, I don't know how many players are on the football anymore. But
53.
No. How many players are on the football team?
53.
Oh, 53.
Yeah, they have a 53-man
roster.
roster.
So a quarter of that is how much?
What's that?
A quarter of 53 is how much?
13, roughly.
Okay, 13, let's say. So out of all the 13 players you'd want to keep, and the rest he's got to get rid of. And he's got to do that within a 2-year span if you get a new GM. Depending upon how contract goes, depending upon how the salary cap goes, and who's going to want to play on the team.
By the way, as we sit here and talk about what the Giants should do, I should tell you that ever since that season-opening 3-game winning streak, the Giants have been a 500 club.
Yeah.
4-7. And in the last 8 games, they've been a 500 club, 4-4.
And they beat a good team. They beat a team that they were supposed to beat.
Yeah.
It's in their own division. They had to beat them.
Mm-hmm.
But again, what do you do? And you've read some of the articles I've given you about how they may fire Gettleman or how he may retire supposedly because of his age. His age has nothing to do with it. You're either good or you are the bad. But the Jets and the Giants have one thing: they're very faithful.
Mm-hmm.
Their owners are very faithful, and they like to promote within. Now, Gettleman, if you know his background, what has he done when he was with the Patriots?
Are you
He
talking
didn't
about
do very
Gettleman?
much.
Are you talking about Gettleman?
Yes.
Dave Gettleman was general manager at Carolina, man, not New
Oh,
England.
I'm sorry. Right. What did he do?
He drafted Cam Newton.
Yeah, he drafted Cam Newton. But what did he do? How did the team do, though?
If I'm not mistaken, I think he may have produced a playoff team or two.
Okay, because the article that I read said after he did something wonderful, he went to another team and he went terrible. And then he went to the Giants and didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm going by, okay, Gettleman should have been fired last year.
Yeah.
But if you want to give him one more year, okay, fine. This is his last year.
Mm-hmm.
If they make the playoffs, does it save his job? Probably in the owner's eyes, yeah. But as for the fans, no, because they're not going to win in the playoffs unless they get into this great hot streak, like you said. And sometimes it does happen. And you said it also. Daniel Jones, and according to the article, he makes too many mistakes.
Yeah. And also, his scoring production has gone way down. He went from 24 touchdowns his rookie year down to 14. Right?
Right.
Let me see here.
But if a quarter of a team,
There we are. He went from 24 touchdowns to 11 touchdowns
and the rest of the
to
team
now he
is
currently
bad,
has
then
10.
that's what he has to work with. But if you had to build around him, if you know he wasn't that good, if he was a little bit above average, and you needed to get better players around him, then that's the GM's fault. Because by year one or by year two, if you have a real fantastic quarterback, normally,
Mm-hmm.
but he's not doing it. And you haven't put anything next to him except for Saquon Barkley, who's out. You haven't given him anybody to throw to. You haven't given him that second it player. Saquon Barkley is your it player, your go-to guy. But if he's not working out, who's your it guy then? Who's your go-to guy on the Giants?
Couldn't even begin to tell you.
Exactly. And that's what most of New York teams don't have, is the go-to guy. The Jets don't have it. The Giants don't have it. Do the Rangers have it?
The New York Rangers?
Yeah.
Yeah, his name is Artemi Panarin.
Okay, so they have the go-to guy. Islanders have it?
It's supposed to be Matthew Barzal.
Okay. Devils have it?
Jack Hughes.
And if you want to include Buffalo Sabres, because they're part of New York.
Well, it was Jack Eichel, but he got traded.
Okay. All right, fine. And the Mets, with all the hot signings that they've signed, there's a go-to guy in there.
They have two go-to guys now, and both of them happen to be pitchers.
Yeah. Plus, they signed 3 outfielders.
Mm-hmm. And an
And
infielder.
what is it? 3 outfielders and 1 utility fielder and 2 starters, right?
Yep.
So they got a net guy. Now the Yankees
Have not made a splash yet.
they haven't made nothing, but they still got that go-to guy.
Yeah, Garrett Cole.
And Joe Judge.
You mean Aaron Judge?
Aaron Judge, Aaron Judge, someone. But the Brooklyn Nets
That's easy. Durant.
and James Harden.
And James Harden, yeah.
And whenever Kyrie Irving decides that he wants to play, he's another supposed go-to guy because he was one of those guys that you can give him a team and he can make the team great around you. Now, who do the Knicks have? Nobody.
Precisely.
The Knicks have good players, but they don't have that go-to guy. The Jets don't have the go-to guy. The Giants don't have that go-to guy.
Right.
Why?
Why? Because
All these years that you've been, with all the years that they've been building up those teams, with Gettleman, and Joe Judge, if the new GM comes in, he's fired.
You think so?
Like I said, most of the time, if you bring in a new GM, unless that coach has the same mindset as the GM, as the new GM, most of the time, the GM likes to bring in his own crew.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. You know this.
Mm-hmm.
This is true.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time. Now, if you sign a coach and you sign him for 3 years, and then you bring in a GM, some people say it's stupid and it's foolish. But they do. That does happen. You've seen it work. You've seen it in action, where they'll hire the coach first and then get the GM. And the GM doesn't want that coach, but he has to work with them. Well, according to the newspapers, they'll be fighting amongst each other. Perfect example. Bell, Davian Bell, or Bell.
I mean Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell. The GM wanted him, but the coach didn't want him. And what happened to the coach the year after? He's gone.
I don't even think he's in the league right now.
Who, the coach, last year's coach?
Yeah.
He didn't go to college or nobody picked him up?
I don't think he was picked up by anybody.
I'm surprised because normally they get picked up by someone.
Mm-hmm.
As an offensive coach or defensive coach or something of that nature. But, all the years that you see, I mean, the Knicks even had a go-to guy at one point. The last go-to guy that the Knicks had was Patrick Ewing.
And that was 25 to 30 years ago.
Right. Some people would say Allen Houston, but no. Allen Houston was not the go-to guy.
Yeah, he was just a secondary player, though.
Right. But the go-to guy was Patrick Ewing because he was the one that you built you built the team around. And he won games for you. Again, Who do the Jets have? The Giants have one guy. The Giants have one go-to guy, but he's injured all the time. So they need to get more than one guy now. So it's the Jets, the Giants. The Mets most of the time don't have a go-to guy. The Yankees normally have a go-to guy unless they're in a losing season where something doesn't happen. The majority of the time, the Yankees normally have a go-to guy.
Mm-hmm.
The Nets never have a go-to guy. Oh, except for Albert King.
And Julius Erving, too, back in the 70s.
Before Julius Erving. After Julius Erving, there was Albert King.
Mm-hmm.
Albert King was the only, that was the old go-to guy. And Bernard, when he was on.
Mm-hmm.
But Albert King was the guy. There was their good, but even then they were losing. But they still had the go-to guy. But other than that, there hasn't been the last go-to guy for the Giants would probably been more who? Eli Manning?
Yeah.
And then you wanted to give it to Daniel Jones because you thought he has the upside to it. He just makes too many mistakes like the article says.
And he also doesn't generate offense inside the red zone either.
Exactly. And it's not because now is it because, like I said before though, is it because he doesn't have the players to do it or he just can't do it?
It's a combination of both. He can't
but
do
if
it
you're
because
supposed to be a good quarterback, you make that worst guy the best guy. And he can't even make a good. He can't even. The point is, he is an above-average player for a quarterback, or an average player for a quarterback. Because if you can't make your team good, then you're an average player. You need to have good players around you. Because you've seen it. You've seen teams where they have great offense, great defense, and an average quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And wins. Because the team around them, they're better than him.
Right.
You've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but most of the time, you really have an above-average quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
On most teams.
Right.
That makes your team look good. But at this point, you haven't had that. You haven't had that with the Jets since when they had Klecko, Gastineau, and so on.
Yeah. I can even go a few years later with that. Curtis Martin and Vinny Testaverde.
Who?
Curtis Martin.
Okay, Curtis Martin. All right.
And Vinny Testaverde.
Okay, even Testaverde. Fine. But, at least they got you there and they gave you a cheap thrill. Testaverde gave you a cheap thrill.
Mm-hmm.
But, when I say Gastineau, you'll always remember those names.
Yeah.
You don't remember Testaverde's name.
Diehard fans would.
Unless you're a really diehard super fan. But the average fan will always remember Gastineau, Klecko, and everyone else. I mean, the Giants, you could say they had Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, they had a
Who
lot
can
of guys.
forget him?
Phil Simms, Lawrence Taylor, Carl Banks.
I mean, they
the
had
entire offensive line and defensive line,
yeah.
too. Leonard Marshall was on that defensive line.
Yeah. So do you understand? You haven't had that from the Jets in a very longer time than the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it going to take?
Winning.
And why doesn't it happen?
Winning is what it takes. And
Right.
and it
But
hasn't
every
happened
three
because the team's
years,
just not that good.
yeah, because you're thinking that like the quarterback the new kid that you have now, the new quarterback that they have now that he's hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, oh, he's hurt. If you can get a quarterback right, that's what come I said last year. Bring it, pick up a quarterback, and you didn't like that. Oh, because he was fearful of his job. No, if there was a damn good quarterback out there, make him, because the first 2 years he didn't do a damn thing. So you know what? You bring in a quarterback, you draft another quarterback, and then let him go. Let him move his rear end. Then he'll show whether he's worth it or not. Because the first 2 years he really didn't do anything. After he went after he they pushed Eli Manning out. They pushed him out in the middle of the season. He didn't do anything. They gave him one more year. He didn't do anything. So I would have drafted another damn quarterback and then afterwards go, okay, fight it out. Because Daniel Jones is considered to be a veteran quarterback now, even though he's in his rookie contract.
Yeah.
Because a rookie contract is between 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. If he's not doing anything within the third year, you got it. At least the second year, or I would say third. If he's not doing something within the third year, he's not showing you certain types of stats. What do you do? So you're saying get rid of Gettleman,
Mm-hmm.
get rid of the coach?
I would actually give him one more year to turn it around. But then again, that's just me.
And the QB.
His production has gone way down. I mentioned before that after throwing 24 touchdowns his rookie year, he went from 24 down to 11 down to 10 in the last 3 years.
Yeah, but there's not a crop, like you said, there's not a quarterback coming out this year or next year that's coming out. So maybe it is worth drafting. Maybe in 20 whatever. Maybe then. But at this point, you know, as a Jet fan and as a Giant fan, as a New York fan, you're hurting bad.
This is true.
You're hurting bad because none of them, for some strange reason, it seems that they don't know how to draft. They're not doing their jobs, and they're keeping their jobs because their owners are very loyal. They're loyalists.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard one guy said that Jerry Jones is available.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But onward, you know, like we said, the Mets have drafted, and they've done a lot. They've picked up a lot of players.
Mm-hmm.
And within 3 or 4 years, they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you tell me. You tell the people who they picked up.
Well, in addition to Max Scherzer, who got 3 years and $130 million.
Now, isn't he the one that didn't want to come to the Yankees?
He actually preferred to go to the West Coast. He did not want to be in New York for a while.
He wanted to stay in L.A. in the hot spots.
Yeah, because he thought that he could get a better chance to win with the Dodgers.
And he wanted to stay warm.
Mm-hmm.
He liked the environment over there. Probably had a house out there too. Can't blame him. But he had a chance to be with the Yankees and refused last year.
Exactly right.
So the Mets did the impossible. They got someone that didn't want to come to New York.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead. Next person.
Let's see. I'm trying to get the list of.
I can tell you they picked up Edwin Encarnacion, a utility field and outfielder. They picked up somebody called Mante.
Mm-hmm.
Maddie? Is it?
Let me see if I can find that here.
I know they picked up, like I said, they picked up like 4 players.
Here we are. In addition to Max Scherzer, the Mets also got Starling Marte to play center field, Mark Canha to play either left or right, and Eduardo Escobar to play on the infield. He could play either. My guess is that he's going to play second base and team up with Francisco Lindor up the middle.
So they got 3 legit outfielders.
All of whom are good defensive players.
Huh?
All of whom are good defensive players.
Yeah. And not so bad hitting.
Mm-hmm.
And they got 1 utility fielder in Edwin Encarnacion. And they got 2 fantastic pitchers.
Yeah.
So they got Scherzer and who else?
Max Scherzer, Starling Marte, Eduardo Escobar, and Mark Canha.
So who's the pitcher there?
The pitcher is Scherzer.
Yeah, but you said they picked up 2.
No, I said they picked up 3 other players.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said they picked up 2 pitchers.
Now, if they could try and find a third pitcher to team with those 2, that would be great.
Well, who's the second pitcher?
Let's see. Who I would maybe like to see.
Because they said they were going after a couple of the high-end pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going after, what's his name, Stroman.
Yeah, it looks like Marcus Stroman is going to be taking his talents elsewhere because he's had no contact with the Mets.
Well, he's saying that they don't want to sign him.
Mm-hmm. Which would be a bit of a disappointment because, in spite of his record, he's actually pitched pretty well.
And he's there every game.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get hurt that many times.
Yeah.
And you were surprised that Thor left for 1 year.
Yeah.
He went to the Los Angeles Angels. I can't believe they're called Los Angeles Angels. That's disgusting. Instead of calling them the California Angels.
Or maybe the Anaheim Angels.
The Anaheim? No. California Angels was the best names for them. I'm sorry. The only name you can give the Dodgers now is the Los Angeles Dodgers or the Brooklyn Dodgers. That's it.
Actually, the There's a better name for the Dodgers after what's going on with them in the last 24 to 48 hours. Mud.
What are they calling them?
Mud.
Why are they calling him Mud? That's what they used to call him. But go ahead.
Because the Dodgers have lost two of their best players to other teams. Not only did they lose Scherzer to the Mets, but they lost Corey Seager to the Texas Rangers. That explains why I call them Mud.
Yeah, but look what the Mets are paying him.
Highest paid pitcher, and he could be the highest paid player in the game right now.
And the only thing that I give them credit for is that it's for 4 years.
I thought it was for 3.
They haven't signed a player. They're signing players between 3 to 4 years. The lowest is, I think, 2 so far. The guys that they picked up, between 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, and $40 million up front.
Mm-hmm.
And now, do you say, is it because of the owner, or do you say it's because of the GM that they just hired?
You mean Billy Epler, right?
Yep.
Billy Epler was basically given the keys to the
Cadillac
car that is known as the New York Mets, and he really went to work. He did his homework and everything.
He opened up his pocketbook and said, hey.
He's made it clear he wants to win a World Series within the next 3 to 4 years. And if it doesn't happen, then it's going to be a major disappointment.
If he continues to spend that way and can still bring up guys from the minor league system and build a minor league system, then he'll be one of the greatest owners of all time.
Could be.
In baseball.
We'll see about that. Let's see how these signings turn out, though.
If they don't turn out to be a bust or they get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the Nets that they fired their entire medical staff?
I guess so. I'm not really sure. That's the first I've heard of it.
Or was it the Mets that fired their entire medical staff? Which New York team fired their entire medical staff to bring in a new medical staff?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. That's the first I've heard about it.
And Major League Baseball is going to go on strike anyway.
Yeah, they have until the beginning of December to talk turkey.
No, we just had that. I had a lot of breasts, I told you.
Can you be serious for 1 minute, please?
I did have a lot of breasts.
You are an impossible person to deal with.
I like my breasts.
You are horrible. Anyway, maybe we should talk a little bit more basketball.
Yeah, because the Nets are coming back. Kyrie Irving is still out.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're winning without him, too.
They're winning without him. And you don't know if they're willing to trade him now. I heard one trade would be to get rid of Kyrie Irving for Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, right. I don't think so.
And someone else. And I'm going, Kristaps Porzingis coming off the bench, that wouldn't be too bad. Not as a starter, but as a bench player. Because he gets hurt too much. And then, what else? Then I heard, and then the Sixers still have that problem.
with Ben Simmons.
With Ben Simmons, you don't know if it's a mental thing now or he just doesn't want to play for that team. Because in the beginning, he just didn't want to play for that team because the team did it all wrong and he did it all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple. You don't badmouth your own teammate and then go, we're going to get rid of you. And then say, oh, we're sorry, we're going to bring you back. Because the millennials nowadays are made out of paper. You can't say nothing wrong, and right away their feelings get hurt.
Mm-hmm. But from what I understand, though, I think Ben Simmons might have a little bit of a problem with mental illness, which is a very serious thing.
That's the thing, because in the beginning they said nothing about mental illness. Then, in the second go-around, they said he had mental problems. He had mental illness. Then they were going to fine him again. Now, if you know that the man has mental illness, why are you going to fine him again?
I have no clue.
And that's what they were going to do because something happened. That they were fining him again. So, and then there's a lot of players out there now that are coming out because of mental illness, including some wrestlers. Nia Jax was released because they wanted her to come back in November, and she was released because she wanted more time because of mental issues.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and a lot of teams are coming out with that now.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes that's one thing that the new generation that's coming up, it's good to be known, to be notified of those things. But have we become too paperish that everything hurts us and we have to take it to heart? But it's good that they're bringing up the mental issues. But now, what do you do with Ben Simmons? What do you do with Kyrie Irving? Because what? He's still doing research?
Yeah.
Again, how much research do you need?
I have no clue.
And he's getting fined, I hope.
I would like to think so, instead of them paying the guy for nothing.
Unless it's guaranteed money. But
yeah, good point.
And as for the Knicks,
they decided to bench Kemba Walker in favor of Alec Burks.
They lost, and the last time I heard they won, 99-90. They beat the Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
So they're about a 500 team?
Let me find that out for you right now before we say goodbye. The Knicks are 2 games over 500 at 11-9.
So I just like to know if what's his name wants to leave his team to go there, and who will they trade for him?
I wish I could tell you.
Damian Lillard. They've been salivating over Damian Lillard, and I'm going, well, who would you trade for him? Oh, R.J. Barrett. Why would you get rid of R.J. Barrett?
Boy. No. I wish we could continue this further, but we only have 12 seconds left. So, Hector, thanks so much.
And no problem. You just got to have that phone system fixed, man.
All right. For everyone here, I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector.
Good night.
Good night.